Hi there guys, my name is Tim and the new September ban list has come out, and as always with ban lists, it might have touched the decks at the top, although maybe not as much as we were hoping, but it has also impacted some of the decks that are down below in the rogue tier. In particular, for me anyway, my Red Dragon Archfiend deck is now considered obsolete because I was using Hot Red Dragon Archfiend King Calamity and it has been banned. So we're going to update the deck, we're going to have a look at what we've got now running, and yeah, we'll see what we've replaced that engine with the Bastille engine that we were using. Just a note, you can still use the Bastille engine, they're still good cards. I've just taken them out for a few different cards. So yeah, if you are looking forward to this profile, then please do subscribe down below. I love the Red Dragon Archfiend deck, so I love posting content on it. And then, yeah, I'm trying to get to 250 subscribers by the end of the year, so it'd be really helpful if you could just help me out with that. So, without further ado, let's get into the profile. So we're going to keep this profile fairly short and sweet here. There's not massive amount of changes that we've done to the deck. Basically, we've taken out the Bastille engine that I was running before. I've also taken out one Synchron Resonator that I was running as well. So yeah, it's not huge changes, but we are going to be starting with 3 copies of Soul Resonator. Now, Soul Resonator is the 1-card combo, essentially. It's kind of a 1.5 card combo that you can do using Soul Resonator. Is the main searcher for the deck. It is our Stratos, I guess. It's a fantastic card. So we're running 3 copies, and it is a mandatory 3 copies that we run for Soul Resonator. Next up, we're running 3 copies of Crimson Resonator. Now, some people run this at a few less copies, but Crimson Resonator plus Bone Archfiend is a fantastic combo that allows you to go into a Red Supernova Dragon really easy. So I run 3 copies of Crimson Resonator in the hope that I will get Crimson and Bone Archfiend, because that's a fantastic combo. And if you're interested in that combo, I did do a combo video on this deck a little while ago. Crimson Resonator is a fantastic card. It just allows you to get more Resonators on the field. Just like our Vision Resonator, which we are running 2 copies of. Vision Resonator is another search for a spell and trap, and it is also fantastic for using for our synchro plays. Being a level 2 Fiend monster is really useful for this deck. And then we've got just the 1 copy of Synchron Resonator. Now, Synchron Resonator is probably the weakest of the Resonators in here. It's still good enough to put in because it allows us to go into our Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. But yeah, we only need 1 copy of Synchron Resonator that we're going to be able to summon off of Crimson Resonator. Now going into our Fiend package, we've got 3 copies of Earthbound Prisoner Stone Sweeper. So we want to get into Soul Resonator as much as possible. Soul Resonator, like I say, is the main 1-card combo for the deck, and Earthbound Prisoner Stone Sweeper allows us to search for this just by discarding it from the hand. So we don't even have to do a summon or anything like that. It is the only reason really that we're playing this in the deck. But for me, it's a 3 of. Some people are cutting this down, I think, to just 2 or maybe even 1. But I still like 3. I like the fact that I've basically got 12 copies of Soul Resonator in this deck. Next up, we have got 3 copies of Bone Archfiend. Now, Bone Archfiend is a really interesting card. Like I say, it is a fantastic 2-card combo alongside Crimson Resonator, which is why we play it at 3. We are searching it off of Soul Resonator most of the time, and it has an incredible effect of, first of all, being able to just special summon it itself by sending another card from your hand or field to the graveyard, and then it can send a card from the deck or extra deck in order to modulate its level to go in for our synchro plays. So that's how you can get a Crimson Resonator into the graveyard. Next up, we've got a single copy of Red Lotus King Firecrime. Red Lotus King Firecrime is not necessarily as good as I was kind of hoping it is, but it is still a really good card. It's a really useful card to have in the deck. You can search it because it is a Fiend that is sort of lower than level 4. It's a good card. It allows us to do a little bit of burn damage on game 3, which is really useful. And also, if it's sent to the graveyard as a synchro material, you can send a normal trap from your deck to the graveyard, which is, we can then bring it back because we're going to be sending a copy of something later on. Next up, we have got one copy of Obsessive Overloop. Overloop is fantastic. If you can get Overloop in your hand, you can just start sort of cycling it between bringing it to the field and bringing it back to your hand from the graveyard, or by banishing synchro monsters from your graveyard. It is really straightforward to be able to just cycle this through a kind of part of your combo. And because it's a level 4 tuner, it allows you to go into certain plays alongside like your Bone Archfiend without doing the level modulating, so you can get into a level 8. But yeah, it's a fantastic little card. You only need one of it, but it is a really great card for being able to just cycle through various synchro methods and even getting things into the banish, which is fine because we are running Dispatter in this build. And then lastly, we are going to be playing one copy of Wandering King Wildwind. Wandering King Wildwind is able to special summon himself from your hand without, as long as you've got a Fiend Tuner with 1500 or less attack, which most of the time we do manage to get that. And then you can use this for your various synchro plays, just as a little extender. It's really useful for that. It's not necessarily something that you're going in for a one-card combo, but it is a great extender in the deck. And now what we've changed out for the Bastille package, we've taken the Bastille package out and we've replaced with a bunch of hand traps. So we were running Ash Blossom anyway, so 3 copies of Ash Blossom. We're now running 3 copies of Effect Veiler and 1 copy of Nibiru. So I was torn between running 2 Veiler, 2 Nibiru, or 3 Veiler and 1 Nibiru. I've ended up going with this build, but honestly I think either of them is fine because you're using them for cross-out designator targets as well, which is the important thing that I wanted. You want your Soul Resonator to be able to resolve, so being able to potentially cross-out designator a Effect Veiler or a Nibiru does some damage to this deck at times. So yeah, being able to designate those cards, and Ash Blossom of course is really handy. So that's everything for our monsters in the main deck. Let's move over to the spells and traps now. We have got 3 copies of Crimson Gaia. Crimson Gaia is our fantastic continuous spell that we've got in the deck. So it allows us to search for a Soul Resonator. It also allows us to change all monsters that the opponent controls to face down defense position, which works really well with Red Dragon Archfiend itself. And then it's also got a special summon of a Red Dragon Archfiend from the graveyard if a monster on the field is destroyed by battle or card effect, which again is really useful, especially from the fact that we can almost bring that upon ourselves at times. So fantastic card, fantastic card. Next up, we've got 3 copies of Resonator Call. Resonator Call, like I say, I wanted 12 copies of Soul Resonator essentially in the deck. So 3 copies of Resonator Call. Simply add a Resonator monster from deck to hand. It is not once per turn. It is a fantastic card for the build. And then we have got 3 copies of Crossout Designator. Crossout Designator just to be able to protect ourselves a little bit, because it is susceptible to a variety of hand traps. That's why we're playing a bunch of hand traps in the deck. Speaking of which, moving on to the traps, we have got 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. We have got 1 copy of Red Zone. Red Zone is a really good continuous trap to be able to target a card on the field and destroy it. And then it also allows us to target banished Dark Dragon Synchro monsters to special summon him, which is a really good little combo that you can do with Red Supernova Dragon to be able to bring Red Supernova Dragon back, and then its effect can be used again after it's used its effect once. So yeah, fantastic card for that. We've got 1 copy of Red Rain to be able to, if you control a level 8 or higher Synchro monster, banish all monsters on the field, which is so powerful to just banish, just in the middle of their turn, just banish everything, which is incredible. And you can also bring this card from your graveyard back to your hand if a Dark Dragon Synchro monster is Synchro summoned to your field, which everything that we've got in the extra deck is a Dark Dragon Synchro monster. So we can send this using Firecram in order to be able to bring it back later on. And then lastly, we've got a copy of Fiendish Golem. Fiendish Golem is just a really strong trap card to have. It's something that we can search in the deck, so it's really useful to just be able to search it for an interruption. It's not necessarily the one that we're always going for, but it is a really strong card to put in the deck. And that is everything that we have got in our main deck. Let us move on over to the extra deck. So, in the extra deck, we are playing 2 copies of Red Dragon Archfiend. Red Dragon Archfiend is the base card. It is really strong. It's so classic to be able to play a deck that's got Red Dragon Archfiend in. This was in my first deck that I ever built, back when I just shoved cards into a box and said, that's my deck. Red Dragon Archfiend was one of them. You have to be careful with it, of course, because it does pop everything on the field. It pops all of the monsters on the field that haven't declared an attack during the end phase, on your side of the field, that is. So you've got to be careful with how you're using it. But yeah, it's a really good card. Next up, we have got Scarred Dragon Archfiend, 2 copies of, because this is how we are able to summon a Red Dragon Archfiend to the field very easily. Because if he's sent to the graveyard, you can just summon a Red Dragon Archfiend from your extra deck, just to replace him, essentially. And then if he's used for a Synchro material for a Dark Dragon Synchro monster, you can destroy all attack position monsters that your opponent controls, so it's really useful on a turn 2 as well. Next up, we've got a single copy of Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend. Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend is brilliant for a little bit of burning to your opponent. You can destroy as many other special summoned effect monsters on the field as possible with attack less than or equal to this card, and then inflict 500 damage to your opponent for each monster destroyed. If you're in a game 3 and you just want to get a bit of damage on there, Scarlet Red Dragon Archfiend can be your answer to that. Then we've got Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Bane, just a single copy to be using as an extender. You contribute 1 monster, target 1 Red Dragon Archfiend monster in your graveyard and special summon it, so you can bring back any of Scarlet, Scarred, and Red Dragon Archfiend itself. So you can bring back any of those 3 using that effect. And it's got another effect of being able to special summon 2 tuners with the same level when he inflicts battle damage, which is really strong as well, so you've got a bit of follow-up play after you've done some battle damage. Next up, we've got a single copy of Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss for negates. Sort of generalized negates are getting few and far between within the extra deck nowadays, because we've got rid of a lot of them, sort of like your Borreload Savage Dragon and things like that have now been removed from extra decks. With Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss requiring a Dark Dragon Synchro monster as to be used for its material, I don't think that it's going to go anywhere because it's so specific. So yeah, I think we're safe with Archfiend Abyss. It is really powerful though, because you can just negate things. You can negate anything on the field. It's an omni negate, and you can do it each turn. So it's a really strong card. Next up, we got 3 copies of Red Rising Dragon. I still love how this card looks. This was the reason that I wanted to buy this deck, because this card looks so amazing. This allows us to just extend further. We can summon a Resonator monster in the graveyard, back from the graveyard, so it allows us to just go straight in with more copies of Crimson Resonator. And also Red Rising Dragon, it's not once per turn. If you synchro summon it, then it is not once per turn, if I remember rightly. I haven't read it for a little while. Next up, we have got 2 copies of Bestial Dispatter. So this is what I've replaced Calamity with. I put in another Bestial Dispatter. Last time that I took it to locals, there was a couple of times when my Bestial Dispatter was nullified, it was sent to the graveyard, it was banished or something like that. And it would have been easier for me to be able to summon another one rather than try and get it back, but I didn't have the other one to summon. So having a second Bestial Dispatter, I think, is really important. And massive thank you to Antonio over at Sons of Russell for lending me his Bestial Dispatter for this video, and whilst I'm just working on getting my own. Next up, we've got 1 copy of Red Supernova Dragon. Supernova Dragon is incredible. incredible. It's such a good card. You can just tribute this monster in order to banish everything on your opponent's side of the field. So if you banish this, you banish everything on the opponent's side of the field. It's amazing. It just wipes the board completely, and it's a quick effect as well. It's so good. So yeah, Red Supernova Dragon is such a good card for this deck. And then we've got a copy of Void Ogre Dragon. Sometimes you find yourself stuck for a level 8 and wanting to get into a level 8, and sort of you've maybe run out your Scarred and your Red Dragon Archfiends and Scarlights and stuff like that. Void Ogre Dragon is a good card. You could substitute this out as well for Dark End Dragon. That's another option that you could use, but Void Ogre Dragon is kind of the cheaper option because Dark End Dragon's sitting at around about a tasty £20 at the moment. And then we've got finally a Quibelt the Blade Dragon. This is really useful if your Bone Archfiend gets negated and you can't level modulate him, because Quibelt the Blade Dragon is a 7, so that is a Soul Resonator plus a Bone Archfiend. And it's a decent 7. Hopefully we can get a better Dark Dragon Synchro 7 that we could go into, but Quibelt for the moment fills that niche nicely. So with that is the deck. Thank you very much everybody who has tuned in. I really do appreciate it. Please do subscribe down below. It'd be really appreciated if you did, and I will see you next time. Bye.